Hey YouTube, today we're going to put a spur gear on our 50th anniversary Bigfoot. Looks like Bigfoot 8 because I bought a spare body to bash on because I wasn't going to beat on that pretty awesome, wonderful 50th anniversary body with the Bob Chandler on the front and all that, because I know I'll never be able to replace it. So I replaced it and the wheels because I let my son drive it. Now I get to put this new spur gear in here. Paxton, you want to say hi to YouTube?
Hello.
Got the top of your head. So anyway, we're going to jump right into this. Going to pop the body off of it here. I'm going to try to replace this spur gear without watching any kind of videos or anything. It's been a long time since I've been inside of anything like this. So first thing you'll notice, I've done pulled this screw out to make sure that that's actually what it was. You pull this one screw out, holds your motor in, then the bottom side just has a fork and it goes down on a peg basically. And the little plastic plug in there tells you what gears are in it. I have a 2.5 millimeter hex. That's what actually runs this screw. So you pop this screw out. By the way, it's nice and easy to get to. You can't really get any power tools or anything down in there hardly. At least not what I have. I don't know if I can get this to even begin to focus. But inside of this little plug, it tells you what the gears are, spur gear and the pinion. So this one is on a 10-tooth pinion, 54-tooth spur. And once you get that out, you just roll the motor up and then kind of rock it a little bit. You have to rock it off of this peg, which is next to impossible. There you go. So there's the motor. No big deal. The spur gear is inside of there. It has got a chipped tooth. I'm not going to try to show you that because it's just next to impossible, but I had to sit here and spin the tires around until I could see the chipped tooth. So next, I'm going to assume, if it's wired yet, wires will pull right out. Pop the motor off of it. Set it off to the side. I'm going to assume that you have to take this, what I would call a spur cover off, which would be your 2.0 and your 2.5. So some of these screws are smaller. Some of these screws are bigger. Like I said, guys, I've never had this apart, so I may have to do some real editing here to make it look like I know what I'm doing. But I'm going to take this off next. And then there's probably some screws on the bottom that would let the rear end separate. Alright guys, so I lied a little bit. The 2.0 millimeter Allen head fit the ones that I was worried about. There's the spur gear. Didn't notice it was broke until we made a hard jump. And the landing actually is when it started popping and cracking. So we drove it over and immediately shut it down. This 50th anniversary is supposed to have HD drive line and all that, if I remember right. It does have a slipper clutch, it looks like. So I'll have to pop this thing on apart to get this out. So I'm going to take the two screws here on top. And then I'm going to assume these two screws here on the bottom, which should all be the 2.5 millimeter. And I think the rear end is going to come off of it. We're about to find out. I'm going to pop those out real quick and we'll see if that's the result we want. Down to the last one. Down inside of here. So we'll take it out. That one's tighter than the rest of them. Maybe bound up with the last one. Yep, that's exactly what we wanted. Rear end slides off. Spur gear. Has a bearing there. I'm going to call that drive shaft plastic just by looking at it. I expected it to be aluminum, so I'm sure I'll get to do a video on that, but here's what you have. So you have to take this screw out, then you have to back your nut off. That way your spring and your bearing will come off. Then you're going to take your three screws here out, pull that off. There's a bearing inside of this because of the slipper clutch. And then you'll replace that. The factory gearing on this truck is a 3956 part number, 54-tooth spur gear. I bought this at Hobbytown today, matter of fact, for $3.99. So this is your 2.0 hex head. Same thing we've been using on everything else. Loosen it up, comes right off. Pretty simple. This thing has a flat side on it, like a keyway. That's where your screw tightens down. Now this nut, I'm going to assume is the same size as your wheels. And if it is, I'll never reach it. No, it is not. An 8mm fits it. So it is not the same size as the wheels. I can't remember what the factory wheels were, but I think they were the same size nut. Pretty sure. Yeah, I reused a nut on it. So they are the same size as like a 2-wheel drive, which the 7mm fits it. I don't know what the real size is, but so I've took off the nut, the bearing slides right off. There's actually a bushing in there that the bearing rides on. And then now you have the slipper clutch setup is loose. You could pull this apart right now if you want. So if you see down inside of here, there's a keyway. That's where your pin goes, your drive pin. Kind of like your typical wheel drive pin, it looks like. And your 2.5mm Allen socket is going to pop these 3 screws out. It's nice if you've never done this or don't really know what you're doing, don't have the book with you, to take these screws and lay them in different piles. That way you know which ones go where. That way you don't get them confused, of course, put the wrong screws in the wrong spot and cause a bigger problem. I have seen these trucks have a lot of diff issues in the center before. It was a Slash my nephew had. Absolutely drove us bonkers trying to figure out, why. So there are 3 drive pegs here with clutches on them. Matter of fact, I've turned that clutch upside down. I'm gonna turn them all the same way because this thing is not very old. We have run this thing, to be honest, almost every day for 2 weeks. Don't let anybody tell you any different. We run the wheels off of them. But anyway, so when I put this back together, I will put this, see how there's a little bit of wear on that clutch? I'm going to put that just like it was. That way it all wears evenly. I'm going to leave the disc turned the same way and all that kind of stuff. Now, to pop this thing apart, you got to be careful. You can't just get in here and just go to prying on it with something. If you do, you could bend with aluminum. You want to be very easy. Try to push it out without tearing it up. It may be easier said than done. I may be getting ready to get my feelings hurt here, but I'll try to do this by hand. There you go. Alright. The bearing popped it out, of course. So, I got it apart. I'm going to check the bearing and it's good. Feels just like it should. So, like I said, 3956. I'll pop this dude open. It does have a front and a back. If you look at it and notice, you have these little recesses cut in here. That is for the screw heads to sink into. This is the back side of it. So you're going to put your bearing in the center of the gear. That's what actually rides on the shaft, keeps it good and centered. Then you're going to take and put your clutch mount on the back side of it. Then you want to get the same 3 little short screws. They look like this. Thing focused, it'd be dangerous. Look just like that. They're really short. I'll slap those 3 back in there and tighten those up by hand. You can run them down close with a driver or something if you're good enough, but don't go to cranking on them. Even though you're going into aluminum, those are little bitty screws, little bitty threads. They're not going to last forever if you go to cranking on them, I promise. Then you're going to grab your 2.5mm hex. Tighten them back up. Then we're going to get to put the clutch back on it. Put it all back together. Bearings with the spacer. Screw or nut with the spring. Then the actual little drive hex that drives your drive shaft. And your unbelievably plastic drive shaft. It's Traxxas though. You know, at the end of the day, we complain a lot about things being plastic, and drive shafts are one that I don't really agree with. At the same time, I've had super good luck out of my Traxxas stuff, so it's hard for me to absolutely say that it doesn't work, especially like A-arms and chassis. I do have an arm, a Notorious. It's got an aluminum chassis on it. It's bent so many times it ain't funny. If you watch my intro, you'll see me doing a double backflip. I treated it like that way too much. To say all the time would probably be a stretch, but at the same time, I got the good out of it. Probably where my kid really gets it from. I blame it on Kevin Talbot, but it's probably my kid watching me drive. And I'm going to pause this and find this clutch I just kicked under this bench. Alright guys, let's try this clutch disc again. I don't know if I'll edit that out or not, but I have absolutely dropped the ball on it. So, alright, the disc, get your clutches on, like that. Just make sure you put the same surface area back on. That way, hopefully, it'll work right. This is very tedious. If you have fat fingers like I feel like I do, it's awful rough. And then, kind of get it down here, but you gotta have, this dude has one spot that it rides too. It's got four little, well, I'm plumb out of focus, ain't I? Okay. So, up inside of here, see those little tangs? There are little nipples sticking out up in there that those have to fit, just like your clutch disc have dual. So, yeah, get all this mammoth together here, and make sure you get it together and leave it together. Now, here's this piece. Here's your bushing. So that's your assembled slipper clutch. You want to put your bushing in here. That rides against the bearing. The bushing is for you to put your larger bearing in that rides inside the chassis. That's the whole purpose of this bearing. It took a little bit more getting down than I wanted. Took some pressure, which is fine. It's not going to hurt it. Got some dirt on it there. I'm going to try to get that going. And then slipper clutch. So this thing was fairly tight. Not tighter than I expected. I'm going to try to run it down again. You can't really hold the gear yet because the gear's not got any tension on it. You got to get tight enough to hold that tension, and then you can hold the gear. So I'll run it down. What I'm going to call snug. Back it off just an eighth a turn or something. Hopefully that's enough. It'll slip. I can't make it slip right now, but I don't want this thing to slip a whole lot. If it slips a whole lot, you're going to be taking all this back apart. Eighth a turn is probably it. Next, I'm going to put the drive back on with your 2.0 millimeter hex. I'm going to rock it back and forth till I feel like it's good and centered as it's going on. And I pushed it all the way down. I don't know if that's right or not. That's what it seemed to come off. So I've tightened it up. So there's your final product. There's your gear on, reassembled. This is super complicated compared to a two-wheel drive. I feel like a two-wheel drive is so much less aggravation. If you look right here in the chassis, so you got a small hole and a big hole. That big hole is the boss. That is where your bearing is going to ride. And then this nifty little clear plate that you see here, you can actually see your gear, and it's sliding up inside your drive shaft. Now, we're not where we need to be. Two reasons. One is it's rubbing. Two, if you look down there and you see the bearing, it's not seated. So I'm going to take and try to force that in there. Like that. Now we're seated. And I pushed that thing all the way on like I was talking. And it is drive shaft pushed all the way up against it. So it's fully engaged both ways. So I think that was 100% the move. Now, we're going to put this dude back together. I'm going to hold my finger here and show you. But so these two screws on top, and then the two I showed you on bottom, in fact, did make this thing fall into pieces, which is crazy. Now you got to try to slide it back together, but while you're doing that, you're going to have to spin the diff a little bit, or the drive shaft or something, to get it to go back together. So it's on, it's just not on. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it is going together, it is not together. I wonder. Okay, so it does have to go. There's a little spot here in the chassis cutout. This goes down into that spot. While you're doing that though, you still got to, there you go, managed to do it. So what I done is I locked the right tire over here with my wrist, spun the left tire at the same time with my other hand, and it popped right together while I was putting a light amount of pressure down on it. So that being said, I'll slap a couple screws in the top of it here to put the rear end of the machine back together. I got my torque turned way down on this dude. It's got a button on it I can push and change torque value. The reason I do that is I don't want to tear this stuff up, rip the threads out of it. And then I'm going to run it the rest of the way down pretty close, but I still didn't torque it. The reason I just run it down about flush is so I can adjust it for the bottom. I want to make sure that I can get the two screws in the bottom. And they're going to go in right here and right here. They're the same size big screw. 2.5 Allen head. That's what they look like. They're pretty good size. They're the biggest ones that I took out. So they go right back in the chassis. And being as the top are already in, when I run the last screw in, I'm going to go on and torque it. Because I got the top down about flush. Uh-oh. Let's just turn it in. It seems to be a little tighter than what my torque value is, and I don't want to tear it up. So I'm going to run it all the way down, torque it, run this all the way down, torque it. Then we're going to run these two right here, run them on down and torque them. There you go. Those are tight. Just remember, you get them down, you give them maybe 1/8 of a turn, that's going to be a plenty. So minus the motor screw, these are the screws you're going to have left. They're all the same design. They run the 2.0 millimeter hex. Those are what's going to hold this down. So really there's only one screw holding this down, and I took two more parts out that didn't need to. So these two long screws didn't need to come out. This one goes right here in the center. So, you know, making YouTube videos and learning all at the same time. But like I said, guys, it's probably been 8 or 10 years since I've been in the middle of a slash. So my nephew was into them the last time I was into them, and I want to say it's probably been 7 years. I think he's 21, and these actually just turned 22, and we were probably 15 when he was doing that. So I'm going to put these back in first. That I should have never taken out. If I'd read the manual, I could have probably told you all this, but at the same time, where's the fun in reading? It's more fun to get in here, tinker around, and learn it on your own sometimes. Plus, you can see that somebody that makes YouTube videos ain't always the smartest, number one. Number two, they make mistakes too. Like, we edit out a lot. I'm sure some of you realize that, but you know, these trick jumps that people do and never have a wreck and all that kind of stuff, it sounds great. It really does. Realistically, that stuff never happens. It's hard to get my boy to understand that, because he's, like I said, 6, getting ready to turn 7. He watches YouTube, he believes that what he sees on there is what normal people do, but really it's not. Those guys doing those trick jumps, and some of that stuff's even AI, but you're not landing all that every time. You're not throwing a basketball halfway across Texas, throwing it in the basket, and it going in the first time. It's just not happening. So I've slid the wires back in the chassis, down this little catch. I wiggled the motor back in. Now Alright, I got the motor where it belongs. So I've shoved it back in. I get my horrible lighting going here. It's got the fork here on the bottom. The top's where your groove's cut out for your screw to go in. I put the wires back in their holder here inside the chassis. It's actually super awesome, by the way. I'm going to connect those back together. They got a groove there that lines them up. Very, very simple. Super simple. And I can't say enough good about that from Traxxas. Like, they have, I'm going to say this bad probably because it really is, but they have dumbed it down to the point that you don't really have to know exactly what you're doing. You just have to be willing to try, and you can pretty much guarantee to get it right. Alright, so what I've done, I'm going to show you just for your reference, try to show you, is, here we go, use our laser pointer with a light on it. So I tried to run this screw in by hand, of course. You see how it's not seated, it's crooked. It's up on this bottom edge because it wasn't where it needed to be. So I've got to run it back out and try to jiggle it up inside the groove where it goes so we'll have the correct mesh on our gears. If not, it's going to be wrong. And pretty much it wouldn't. The motor wasn't close enough, so it was definitely going to slip, cause us to have an issue. So I should torque that screw down instead of just running it in finger tight like I did. Don't forget that.